So,
Good evening.
Hello.
okay, we're all here. How is everybody? A little bit somber tone tonight, but
Yeah.
um, we're missing Bert.
Yep. And did you hear anything from Karen? How she's
Uh,
doing? Or
Janice, I
anything?
can barely hear you.
Okay, let me try this again. Um,
That's
hey,
better.
all right. I'm up at 100% on my computer.
Yeah, that's fine. I can hear you
Okay,
now.
good.
I um, I've left messages with Karen. I never actually got a hold of her,
Oh,
but I I assume she got it. I called her this afternoon as well.
okay. Huh. All right.
I've
Maybe
got
I'll
my
try calling her
phone.
this week and just seeing how she's doing and what's up.
Yeah, she seemed okay the last time I spoke with her.
Good.
Tone of the voice seemed chipper.
Well, that's good.
Okay. Hello, Bert.
Hello.
Hey. So we're on. Uh, let's see. Are we recording? Am I recording here? Let's see. It is recording. So start the meeting. It is now 7:03. Yes. We don't have any minutes to go over.
No, I'm sorry. I've been totally out of it. I'll try to
Yeah,
get the
no
rest of them
problem.
done.
Yeah. Um, so we'll jump right into the guide board,
Okay, good.
famous guide board. I presume everybody got a chance to look at the recommendations from uh, Steve Smolsky,
Yep.
Yes.
and yeah, and that was in a sense his recommendations were approved and uh, by the select board at the last meeting. I noted that um, Matteo and I had actually spoken with Peter Mahoney that very same day,
Oh,
and
good. Yeah.
there was, there was a substantial amount of agreement um, in terms of how to deal with the wood itself and preserving it uh, as far as it being exposed to the elements. Um, the only discrepancy I think there was with Steve Smolsky was that the I guess the conservation center still reaffirmed their conviction that it should, it really should have been put under some kind of um, protection outside. That would still would have been ideal. And the other point that of discrepancy was that they thought the 10-year interval as far as any problems developing out of being outdoors, the 10 years was was somewhat generous. Matteo, chime in anytime if you think there's anything I'm.
I think you're absolutely right. I think like the thing that struck me when we talked with Peter was
there's that sentence in Smolsky's report that says that I explained to Peter that Shutesbury wants a working guide board that will be reinstalled on the town common, exposed to the weather as it has been for nearly a century. And it was pretty clear when we talked to Peter that his impression was that decision had already been made, that there wasn't going to be any kind of protective structure. It was just going to go back the way it was. And so the advice that he gave, or the consent that he gave to um, to the decision that, or the ideas that Stephen had, was basically under the assumption that we had already foreclosed that possibility entirely and moved on to, we're going to put it out there, exposed to the elements. What can we do to minimize as long as possible weathering?
Yep.
Which is, I mean, a little disappointing because that decision had not been made at that point.
Yeah. And I dare say, I think, well, to put it more, to put it somewhat euphemistically, I think that, yeah, not only was the decision made, but I think that there was a general sense, you know, that the idea of having this cover over it just was not a good idea.
By the select board,
Huh?
the select board's
Yeah,
opinion, yeah.
Not to mention, you know, the buildings committee
Oh, yeah.
and I'm not sure. I'm not sure we got an opinion from Smolsky about it precisely, but I think that, well, his assessment is that it's going to be okay for 90 years as long as it's checked every 10 or so. The conservation center made the point that it should be checked every 2 years. Um, anyway, that is the gist of it. Um,
At the select board meeting, I asked, how did they achieve, I mean, how did they arrived at the conclusion that the town wanted it uncovered? And the only response I got is, well, I've talked to some people who, so it was more like a few people's opinion. I don't think necessarily there was any big consensus from the town.
That's true, yeah.
well,
But I guess all we can do is make a recommendation, and
yeah, I mean, this is the nature of politics, unfortunately.
I mean, I think we provide our feedback based off of what the experts have told us. My primary concern right now is this question of cost. Like, I mean, there's going to be a cost involved with installing a concrete foundation.
Yep.
There's going to be a cost involved with the metal flashing. There's going to be a cost involved with all of these, changes. Um, red cedar shingles, the specialized paint that he wants to use. That's all fine. That's not money that is currently in the CPA grant
No.
for this project. And then also, like, if we're checking it every 2 years or every 5 years or every 10 years and more work is needed, is that more coming out of the historical commission, out of the Friends of the Historical Commission? Like, who's paying for this now? Now
Henry
that,
brought that up at the meeting.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you recall, but at that meeting, the select board meeting, there was a voice. I believe it was Becky. I could be wrong, but she said something to the effect that we had the budget to deal with the proposed maintenance. I don't know if anybody recall it. Were any of you there?
Yes.
We,
She's
we as in the historical commission?
Yeah.
no.
Yes. We
Me?
have the budget. So they've been looking at our account. That's something I want to get to next.
Okay.
But before we go there,
Henry, I thought when you asked who was going to be in charge of doing that maintenance, that Becky said that they had it in their budget, that the town.
again, this is something that we need to clarify very, very, very soon with them, because I got the impression, I could be wrong, that our budget was mentioned in that discussion. Nobody recalls that at all?
I guess the best I can recall is they said they would put it in their budget.
Yeah, no,
That they-
no, well, we need that clarified, certainly.
I don't recall it. I mean, it's since it's recorded, I guess we can go back and
Yeah, yep, yep.
check
definitely.
exactly what they said, hold them to
Yeah.
it.
Of
Yeah.
that, the select board meeting, so I could go back and listen to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, my memory doesn't usually invent things, but I've had dreams though. Where I've actually invented a reality, and I've woken up and I'm totally totally obsessed with this new reality. Uh, anyway, um, so yeah, that does raise some questions. And then again, then the next question, of course, is who is going to do this? We had, of course, volunteer labor. We had sort of a plan within our means and our skill set. So the question then is who is going to be doing this? How involved is that cement base? I have no idea, but Bert, any thoughts on this?
Don't they want to put it on the same rock that it was on? Isn't that
Well,
It wasn't on a rock.
what's that?
When we took it off, it was not on a rock.
It
what was
was.
it on?
No, like so one edge of it was just directly on the ground, and then under the other edge there was some stone and brick that had been put, I think, to like level it,
Ah,
but it was just in contact with the ground.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I forgot about
There was a original old stone, flat stone that's very near to the corner. And the last time it was repaired, or I guess it was moved by the highway department back because where it was so close to the corner, it was getting a lot of snowbank on it. So someone said brick. It is basically just some flat concrete blocks that it had last been sitting on. And the stone, whoever mentioned the stone, there is a very old stone that would be a big job to move
oh,
right on the corner.
That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking about.
I mean, it sounds like it needs to be a new concrete foundation because
Yeah.
to be affixed to it,
Mhm.
there needs to be a gap between the foundation,
Yep.
yeah, bottom board.
that's something that the highway department would be able to for us or not? If we ask them about that?
I don't know. Either that or the buildings committee.
Buildings committee.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, that's true, maybe more buildings committee.
And this is their idea.
People there. he's, he's, well, which means we'd have to sort that one out as well.
Mateo, you mentioned that it has to be separated from the ground, like
Yeah, 2 inches off of the
of the cement,
Yes,
of the cement. That's what was recommended by Williamstown.
right. No, this was
Oh.
recommended by Smolsky, the wood scientist.
Okay. That's part of the report. Okay, I didn't notice that part. Yeah, I would think that the buildings committee would probably want to take that on.
Okay.
How much
And-
would, I mean, cement has gotten expensive, right? So do you think that that would be expensive? I don't know how thick the cement needs to be.
I mean, I would assume that's a concern for the buildings committee. They
Uh-huh.
need, they need to prepare the site for this town building.
Ah,
They want to, I mean, if this is what they want to do, then why is this suddenly like,
I agree completely. I mean, this is, but then again, we need to be clear about who's paying for this, and
yeah,
or are there any? Should we be thinking about other sources of funding to get this done?
I mean, we can apply for another CPA grant. It's, it's the determinations of eligibility are in early December, but the actual application isn't until February. So
we need to come up with a budget for it. And that would have to be the buildings committee, presumably.
I mean, I feel like this would be the kind, if this is what the buildings committee and the select board want to do
Mhm.
with this historic resource, then the buildings committee perhaps should be told to apply for a grant,
Mhm.
pay for it, and the historical commission can sign off as an endorsing body saying we support this. But I don't like this is not what we're recommending, so why would we be responsible for applying for the funding for it?
I like,
Maybe I'm
yeah,
just being belligerent. I don't know.
no, I think that's a good idea, though. It falls back on, well, if they don't do it, who cares? And we're the ones who care.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the board arrives and they plunk it down on the ground on the common, right? Or something along that line.
Right. Well, I'd like to think that there's goodwill to go around here, and everybody wants the best for the guide board here.
Uh-huh.
And I presume that the buildings committee will do their part. And since we don't have the well, uh, or do we? We don't have the skills to figure out how to do this, and the ability to do this.
No, we don't. But I mean, I guess I, like Mateo, feel like being belligerent. But
Mhm.
since we have made a recommendation and it's
Yeah. They
being
turned it
kind
down.
of ignored,
Mm-hmm.
based on what a few people probably think should be done, instead of based on a recommendation by uh, experts that we consulted. So, but I think that in the end, I mean, we were in charge of renovating this thing. Uh, I guess because it is a historical piece, right? So do we have to complete the project, or can we say this is what we've done and now we sign off? Is that an option? Or are we supposed to finish it?
I mean, the charge for the buildings committee is to be responsible for the maintenance of town buildings. And this is a town building. It's a historical resource, but it's also a town building. So I feel like a there's a dual overlapping area of responsibility between us and them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more than happy to like work with the building. Maybe we do a joint application for CPA money to pay for, adopting Smolsky's recommendations. But it feels a little, I don't know, feels a little unfair for our recommendations to be kind of just tossed to the side. And then to also simultaneously be responsible for implementing somebody else's and going through the grant process. Um,
True.
like I would hope they would want to work with us on this.
Was
And this-
there a plan for what it would sit on under the gazebo?
Well, it was supposed to sit on cement, yes. And we had a volunteer to work on that, who would be the expert I would have relied on for that, since I was one of the volunteers, but I was not the expert. But now that that project fell through, I don't know, maybe we have to hire somebody to do it, because I don't feel. I mean, suppose we could research it and look at Google some videos, which is like I do with a lot of projects I want to do, but I don't want to that route, and not with something that is going to be, which should be done properly.
Yeah.
Well, the cement needs to be layered with some kind of metal so that moisture doesn't come through the concrete.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's also, I mean, in addition to the concrete and the flashing, there's this, the second, third, and fourth items on Smolsky's recommendations. Those are all things that need to happen before it comes back.
Yeah.
So is the idea here that we are going to be telling Williamstown, we need you to add the beveled trim, using this particular wood,
Yep.
replace the shingles with this particular wood, apply this oil-based water repellent, and then if we're retaining the roof, which is, we haven't even gotten to that point yet, um, replace it with these things. Like, are we giving those recommendations to Williamstown? Does the amount of money that we've already paid to them cover this kind of work? And are they going to come back to us and say, like, these things are not
Mm.
advisable from an historical preservation perspective?
Yeah.
Because again, like Smolsky, he's a wood conservationist. Like I understand that he's an expert in terms of like wood science, but if what he is suggesting is contrary to the best practices for historical preservation, then what do we do? Maybe I'm just being paranoid, but
Well, I think
Well,
the argument there was that um, at least my sense of what Smolsky was arguing, right? I mean, was that that in a sense, and he did say this. He said, "Well, these are people who are mainly familiar with um, cultural artifacts that go in museums." I mean, he even said that. And so this is an outdoor uh, piece. In a sense, it almost sort of undermine the credibility of what they could recommend for an outdoor uh, object. And I don't know if you recall this, but you can listen to the tape, the recording. Um, and that was, of course, that was quite uh, that was a resounding, in a sense, dismissal of what they might be able to recommend for an outdoor. Yeah, and
But
yeah,
I assume that they had a way that they were going to preserve it using whatever type of paint, whatever coats of whatever.
yeah,
And so they had a budget that they had included that in the budget. The question,
yes.
what Smolsky is recommending, is it different? Is it going to be more
Okay.
expensive or is it going to be the same?
Just to be clear, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mateo, but during our conversation with Peter, I asked him what he thought of those recommendations, and he basically said they agreed with them. Yes.
yeah, he agreed with them again because they were under the presumption that the decision had been made not to
Yes.
put it in a protected space or put it under protective cover of some kind.
And
But did he say it would cost
but
more?
no, that's the
I,
thing. He didn't say, well, it's just going to cost you that much more or anything like that. Uh, I guess that was, we need to confirm that with him, you know?
I think it was pretty vague. I don't know that he necessarily understood that we were saying, can you do these things and how much more will it cost? And I also don't know that he is in a position to provide that information because he's, the conservation assistant in that
Yes.
department, furniture department. So I think that decisions about like any changes to the contract would have to come from the business manager or somebody. But I think the first step essentially needs to be getting some confirmation from Williamstown about obviously they're not going to do the concrete and the flashing, like that's
No.
going to be, but items 2, 3, and 4 in Smolsky's letter, if they do those things, what are we looking at in terms of timing and in terms of cost? And do they, I guess, I mean, Henry's right. He basically did say these things are fine to do, but
Yeah. But didn't elaborate as far as, well, it's going to cost you more or it'll take longer or anything to that effect. It was almost like, okay,
yeah.
I guess I accepted it as a confirmation that they would be doing it.
Well,
But
I think as Mateo was saying that, I think that should be in writing, and we should check to see that they can
Yeah.
do it, and that what the additional cost, if any, would be.
Yeah. I was going to say, I absolutely agree with Janice. Like, it needs to be in writing.
Okay, no, you're right. You're right.
Just for everybody's sake, for ours and theirs,
Mhm.
that we don't have a misunderstanding somewhere in the process, and that we think they're working on something and they're not, because they're waiting for a change or work order or something, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Um,
So
so,
does this make them unable to, they still can do the parts that we were planning for them to do, removing the paint, repainting it, and I don't know if they were doing the lettering. We were going to have to find someone to do the lettering. Is that right?
I assume that they were.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a matter of maybe what kind of paint or how many layers of protective coating or something like that that
Mhm.
maybe have to be adjusted for until we get to the more important things like the roof, the shingles and stuff like that. Because the shingles and the roof thing aren't included in what we have set for Williamstown right now, right? Because we weren't sure what we were going to do.
Yeah. So here a second, I will just share this.
Okay.
What is it? I think it's this one. Sorry.
Oh, good. Okay.
So we opted, or the select board opted for option 2. So this is the letter of what Williamstown is doing. Anoxia, drying and equilibrate, equilibration. Oh my God, sorry. Exhausting day. My
Yeah, whatever.
children have just been, all right. Uh, uh, Photographs, removing the unoriginal paint, which the last that I heard is where they were at.
Yeah. Hmm.
Add an angled molding, which I think is actually part of, yeah, Smolsky's item number 2, add bevel trim
Mhm.
the horizontal top edge of the skirt board to promote water shedding. I think that they're already kind of doing that, right?
Yeah.
At the top of the skirting to better shed water. It's exactly item 6. 7, evaluate areas of wood deterioration and areas of old fill, strengthen, replace, and fill as needed. Apply a primer, recreate the lettering. I think you're right, Janice. I think that largely they're already doing these things.
Hmm.
It's just that he's calling for them to use a particular line of products.
Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe at least we need to know whether they're okay with that and can do that, and whether there's any adjustment is necessary to the contract. Hopefully not, but whatever, we just need to know up front.
Yeah.
So the total, if you could scroll down just a bit there. Total.
So the total for phase 1 was 17,312.
Yep. Okay.
Half of which I think we've already paid, and half of
Yep.
which due after the work
Mhm.
is done.
Okay.
Yep. And that's why I also inferred that because Peter Mahoney did not elaborate, that pretty much they were already on. They'd already programmed to do many of these things anyway. And
Hmm.
maybe there's slight variations on what they're doing.
Yep. So maybe at point 10, that's the one when you're having to figure out what to do next. Confirm parameters for replacement and modification of the cupola and roof.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
up until 9, it's more or less as planned, except that it may involve different materials or coatings or something than
Yep.
they planned, or maybe not. We don't know.
Right. And that might, that additional material might change the cost too, though.
Yeah, right.
And definitely the concrete foundation, that's going to be on the town, whether
Yeah.
that's the buildings
That's-
committee.
Yeah. That's maintenance. Let's call that maintenance.
Hmm.
Well, at least at this point, but well, yeah. So, Matteo, you think there might be a way to get that onto a CPC grant, perhaps? at least.
Well, so I think what we should do is we should confirm with Peter that the materials that are specified in the second and third bullet points
Mhm.
align with what the work parameters already indicate, and there it won't result in a change of cost, ideally, hopefully.
Yeah.
We leave because item 11, which is the second stage, the roof piece, is still kind of up in the air. We kind of leave that for now.
Mhm.
Um, and that maybe what we should be doing is connecting with the buildings committee and saying, like, since this is the option that the select board and the buildings committee has moved towards, we would like to apply for a CPA grant to prepare the site for the return of this. Hopefully it's coming back this year. And that will include applying for funding for laying the concrete and putting in the flashing. And I have no idea how to determine those costs.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I would think, I can't speak for the committee, for the CPC, but I would think that this would definitely fall within the allowable parameters of a CPA grant, right, for historic resources.
Mateo, if we are going to be the ones who are applying for the money and assume that somebody will be hired to do this work, then why does the buildings committee have to be involved? I'm just saying that might be the question.
I mean, in an ideal world, the buildings committee should be applying. That's
Yeah.
I think the buildings committee should apply, and we can provide a letter of support saying we are fully on board with the buildings committee applying for this money, and let that additional work be on them, because they're the ones who want to ensure this is protected in this way to minimize their costs.
Mhm.
But if we want to just do it ourselves, then we don't even need to include them, or we just include a letter from them saying we approve. But either way, like, I mean, Henry can speak to this better, but I don't think that I don't think the historical commission should be paying out of pocket for this.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
what the CPA money is there for.
Yeah.
So what were we going to do instead on our plan? Was there a base to the cupola, or what were we going to be doing?
I don't understand the question.
Well, if we didn't have planned a concrete base before, what was our plan before?
No, there was going to be a
Oh, okay.
base. And then a gazebo on top. But the
Okay.
concrete base was going to be there.
Okay. So, but I see. But we had volunteers who were doing the project, and it would have included the base as part of the volunteers project for the cupola.
Right. I think what we had thought was putting a concrete base, but not just letting it sit on it. If it was going to be under the cupola, then I don't know. I don't know that
Yeah.
it can be raised.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
mean, as we did with the cupola project, Bert, if you want to give me numbers, like a budget for just the concrete and flashing portion, I can write the determination of eligibility and the grant application. I'm happy to do those things, and that way, and then I'll reach out to the building committee and say, will you endorse this? I don't think it'll be, I mean, it's basically just repurposing what we've already written for the grant application and removing all of the other pieces of the project.
And just as a question there, would we be asking the buildings committee to be involved or not?
That's entirely up to us.
Well, I'm opening it up to discussion.
Well, I think that, I mean, Mateo, in response to your question, I don't feel that I have the know-how to say what is needed here. And Ross Greco, who was my main consultant, he's heading for New Orleans for the winter. And I mean, I suppose I could ask him and talk to him on the phone, but maybe that's something that yeah, maybe that might be something that we should push for the buildings committee to decide.
So I would agree with that. I'm happy to reach out to the buildings committee and say, we're going to put together a CPA application for money to adopt the things that have been sort of forced on us. I don't want to say it like that, but
Yeah.
um, and we would like your guidance on establishing the costs for the budget for, item one in Smolsky's letter.
Yeah, I think
That's,
that makes sense.
If they're the experts on buildings, then tell us how to handle this building.
yeah, and they might know, they would probably better know what the budget should be.
I certainly have no idea. So yeah, I would hope, I would be really eager to get their feedback on it.
Yeah. I mean, since they're obviously involved in this, since the select board was listening to them more than us, and so it's already been decided that the sign board, the guide board is under the jurisdiction of the buildings committee as well as the select board, then I think we should help us with this stage that is, more typically their part of an operation.
Yeah,
It's-
I want to be involved with Mateo on that letter to the buildings committee. And I
Mhm.
say it because I think there's some diplomatic turns that we could put in there. Uh, my sense is that when we presented the project, perhaps we didn't give them enough context. And that's where they really got to us, because their primary question was, well, have you looked at other options? And implying, well, why is this the only option? And of course, we didn't have much to say there. In other words, we didn't discard other options.
Yeah, Henry, looking back when I presented to them what we were planning on doing, I was coming from the angle that it was, that they just had concerns about what the structure would look like and not about whether or not it should be there.
I think
Mhm.
so.
And so I think in part I was looking back at my communication with Steve Dalmas before that and how it came about.
Yep.
And at one point he wrote to me that they had a meeting when they heard that we were doing this, and that they thought that anything that we wanted to build should be run by them first. And I guess that was strike number one, that I didn't know that. I thought
Mhm.
that we had made plans when
Yep.
William was in charge of the project, and I just thought that it was a given that this is what we were going to do.
Exactly. We believed in it, and in a sense, didn't think how this might have come across to. We lost somebody.
No, sorry.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, the way it came across to them is probably, it lacked context. How did we arrive at that? Well, we took the advice of the only professional, the people who are actually restoring this thing. That's what they told us, and we believed totally
Mhm.
that's what should be done.
Yeah.
Needed to cover. Even that point, I don't think we got across to them as context. So in a sense, they thought, well, these people are just making up this idea. And I say that because in the end, even Rita was saying, during her introduction at the select board meeting, was saying, uh, she just she noted that it made us look like we had originated this idea, that we made it up. And I noted, I corrected her. I said, we did not come up with this idea. This was an idea that the Conservation Center gave us, and we'd been working with them, and they reaffirmed it to this day.
Mhm.
So there's some issues of communication going on here. That
Mhm.
perhaps didn't get across to people. They began presuming things about our initiative based on that miscommunication.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm thinking that however the way we approach these people on the buildings committee, perhaps we'll revisit that a little bit just to reestablish the connection with them. I mean, uh, you know, it's one of those things. We in hindsight we can see that perhaps we could have been communicating this thing better, and I'm as much to blame for it as Bert, because I was present. I was present at that meeting, and the last thing on my mind was, well, um, other options, or you know I just presumed that this is the way to go because the experts had told us this, do you
Mhm.
follow what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we can patch this up somewhat and not take it so much on the chin, because in part there are some communication issues here. It's not just a question of, that these people are out to get us, and they made up their minds based on what we presented to them, the impression we gave them.
Mhm.
And I don't know. We can remediate that a little bit somehow.
Mhm. I think too, when you send something to the building committee, I assume you're going to send a copy to the select board, or not, or what? I'm just thinking we have a new interim town administrator who
Yep.
might need a little of that same background in order to jump into the conversation and stuff too, because it will come back to the select board, at various places too. So just how to make that circle of communication as
Yeah.
appropriate.
So I can start writing up something of that context
Okay.
and of the exchanges that we've had, with them, and that could be incorporated into the letter.
Okay.
What do you say?
So should I, in terms of the applying for grant funding, just hold off until you do that?
Well, I'm going to do it tonight and just send it to you. Um, and anything else, the technical details versus the cement, the flashing, um, you know, I just like to start with that context, I guess yeah.
And then that would be what would go, like you were saying, to the building committee and say, look, this decision has been reached and we need to create this concrete base, and
Yes,
we're hoping or expecting, however, that the building committee will be able to help with that part, or something, whatever it is that, however you're going to word it.
yeah, something to that effect. Yeah, we'd like you to come on board with this. And the
Work
question is
together or
here,
something.
one question we need to decide tonight is whether we want them to do it, or are we going to be the responsible party? I don't know if we can both be, or can we?
Uh-huh.
So my inclination is to ask them to do it,
Yeah,
and they will only do it if they say no.
Okay.
Yeah,
correct.
I think we we were willing to do the gazebo, but I think basically we renovate the thing, and now the rest of it is just support for the thing, which is more in the buildings committee, so we can frame it that way.
The only thing that I'd like, and I don't know how much actually say they will give us since they've sort of ridden right over us so far, is where that concrete base is going to be. Are they going to move it significantly back onto the common? Are they going to leave it at the corner? I think that may still come into play at some point too. I'm not sure. I'd rather have it towards the corner, but again, we may not have any say, and maybe it doesn't make too much difference as long as it's in more or less the right place so that it can serve the function that they want to have preserved there.
Well, there were two things there. One was that the gazebo itself was going to be kind of in the way of the other monuments there. So for that,
Yeah.
reason, we were thinking of moving it. But the other thing was the concern with the constant say when the plow goes by and throws
Yeah,
stuff into it. That was the other reason to move it back some.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that we have really come to any kind of or the select board hasn't come to any kind of decision as to where to put it. And I
Yeah,
guess we,
and they're very, very keen on reminding us that the common is their jurisdiction.
Hmm.
Putting
they'll have
things,
to, we can only
Well-
make a recommendation, right?
moving things around or anything like that has to go through the select board.
I think Bert's right. Like the extent of our power then must be just saying we recommend for the following reasons it be located here or here. Like,
Mhm.
but if they're going to exercise that kind of control over it, then there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Should we include that detail in the letter here?
I think we
Just-
should mention at least that the site needs to be determined.
Decision.
Just say
Exact site, yeah.
to be determined, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And should I reach out to? So I'll hold off on anything with the grant request right now. As far as Williamstown, should I reach out to them about items 2 and 3 on Smolsky's report and whether those
Cool.
are included with the cost of what we're doing now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think we need to vote on any of these things, do we?
I don't know. We're not specifically doing anything with money. That's
Right.
usually the reason to vote or issue a permit or something, which we're not
Mhm.
doing. So I think we're okay.
Anything else on this as we're talking? That could go into the letter to the buildings committee. And again, just to reiterate, we're going to ask them to take this on
Hmm.
and give them, we can include the recommendations. I mean, it's a recipe, right? I mean, for somebody who knows how to do this, they've got a recipe for how to do it.
So
And
we're asking, yeah, the concrete base, I guess.
yes,
Yeah.
and Steve Smolsky, I asked him if he would be available for a consultation. So,
Hmm.
you know. Okay. Anything else?
No.
I wonder if Leslie has any thoughts on this. I haven't heard you say much, but
Leslie
there,
is not here.
Leslie. I guess she's not.
Not at the moment, maybe.
Not at the moment. Okay.
It
Right.
takes me time to unmute myself and but
Yeah.
I
Leslie, I actually had a question for you. Because I'm not clear about what are all the responsibilities of the buildings committee. I mean, they don't obviously don't build all the buildings for the town, but they repair, they do maintenance. And so would this be considered something within their purview to do the base for this thing?
Well, I would guess so. I think Henry's doing a wonderful job trying to, we're all, not me in the assessor's office, but we're all volunteers trying to put together what previous volunteers have done. And I think everybody wants the gazebo on the common, knows it needs a base. I think they would be glad to help because they've been involved in this all along, right?
Yeah.
It-
Well, once we figured out that that they needed to be. I
Yeah.
mean, once they let me know that they needed to be, 'cause
I don't think there's a job description for the buildings committee any more than
No,
there is for
well,
historical.
you
Well,
know-
there's more so for historical. They've got a statute.
Well, we're all volunteers. I mean, you don't fix something until it breaks, kind of idea. I don't know. But in this case, I think the word is out. This piece is fragile and needs special attention.
I agree. And I'm grateful to everybody for all of their input, even though we don't ever all agree on anything or see it from the same way.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But I would think, if it were me, I was just thinking on mute because I don't like to speak, was that if you wanted to get it done, you guys write the grant. I'm sure they would sign off under the circumstances, and then you'll know it'll be done. If you ask them first, they're gonna have to have a meeting and talk about it, and they may have other things on their agenda. But
Ah,
that I'm just trying to be expedient and get things done, not think about it.
I think the point is, Leslie, that if we write the grant to do it ourselves, well, it might be more costly if we're going to hire somebody to tell us how to do it right.
Oh,
That
yeah, no, I meant the CPA, using the CPA funds. Somebody, I think Mateo said, write a CPA grant application, and who should write the application for it?
well, we need to get an idea of how much it's gonna cost to do
Right.
the specific
Right.
things they want to do, and that's where they could help us.
mhm.
Exactly, yeah, but I would just see when they're on the next, look at the calendar and see when they're up next and just say, look, we've got this extra expense now, we're not building the gazebo, or if the concrete pad was part of the volunteer gazebo. We're writing a CPA grant. To any of you have expertise that could tell us how much funds we should request?
And whether they could do it.
Well,
And could they do it? Would they be willing?
yeah, some of their funds to do it. Is that what you're saying? Because it's got to be matching funds.
Or just even their expertise in what to do or how to do it.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
I just know there's a timeline on getting that CPA application in, and
Yeah.
might be more expeditious if Mateo just wrote up something simple that he hopefully the CPA committee would approve and move it along.
Yeah, so the determination of eligibility is in early December, and then the full grant application is February.
So that's
Um,
close. I mean, it's a week or two, something like that.
I mean, so the dirty secret is you don't need to do a determination of eligibility to apply for a full grant.
Uh-huh.
Just submit the full grant by like it's essentially a
Uh-huh.
step to ensure people don't do more work than they need to if it turns out their project is not legally
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
but I think it would still be a good idea to put something to them. I mean, the eligibility form is very straightforward. It's basically a kind of like a speculative budget and a description of the projects, so the committee can decide if it falls within the parameters of the law. But I have no idea where the budget would start with something like this. So,
Mhm.
like the expertise from the building committee might be really useful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt that they have among them accumulated experience, perhaps to do this. I mean, come on. So okay. So by way of conclusion, what I'm hearing is that we should initiate, perhaps, well, at least one option here is to initiate that grant proposal, and of course bring the buildings committee, get them involved with the the costs and the possibility that they might be doing this from the start.
Yeah.
but we would be putting the the proposal forward. Is that agreeable, or is that?
That's fine with me, and I'm happy to write it. Again, I would just want to have, I just need to know what the numbers are to put in there for, well,
Well, that's why we need to get in touch with them right away.
um, are you going to do that, Henry, or do you want?
Well, I could, yeah, I can do that. Uh,
More or less just to find out when their next meeting is, so you can discuss it at their meeting.
yeah,
But I could see drafting the application in advance and just leave areas blank and that we know need to be filled, whether it's description of work or, materials and costs and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'll write up a letter. I'll send it to you, Matteo, just to review in case I missed anything.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, in response to Janice's point, the application that we already wrote for the gazebo project can largely be repurposed here.
Oh, good.
A lot of the sections about like justifications and community impact and all that, that's the same. It's just the description of the actual part of the project is going to be smaller.
Oh, good. Great.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay.
Thank you. That you're a wonderful help on this, Matteo. A big help.
Yeah. Okay. So let's close the subject. And
I just add in that doing a little research here tomorrow, the buildings committee meets tomorrow night. It could almost be under the any other business kind of thing.
I mean, just show up at the meeting and
Let them know.
Might email in advance or something if we
No.
know who, but
it's a short fuse here. Well, I'm gonna try it.
I
Let's see
think
what they-
that's worth it. If that's at least touch base with them, and convince them that this is the way to go.
Okay.
What time is that meeting tomorrow?
5:30.
Okay. And it's a Zoom, I assume, or not?
I think so. Wait a minute, let me reopen it and check.
Sorry, thank you.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay.
I might be able to be on that call as well.
That'd
It's
be
not
good.
an interesting meeting to attend generally.
Hmm.
All right. I will.
Thank you,
I'll
Leslie.
Come up with something and send it to you, Matteo, and just in case, and I'll get it over to them. All right. So moving on to the account, our account. Let me just share with you something. Uh, 1 second.
Well, while Henry's working, I've got the agenda for tomorrow's meeting and it says discuss report regarding signboard restoration. Isn't
Oh,
convenient.
yeah.
They don't have times for it, but
Nice of them to notify us about that.
Yeah, that's true. This is good. Communication. Well, it's good we had a meeting tonight. Leslie looked that up, and that some of us can go to that tomorrow.
God for Leslie.
Yes.
Now, what time is that issue coming up? What is it?
I think she said it was just 5:30 and there wasn't listing a time.
Yeah, they don't have times on the agenda.
I
okay.
keep muting myself so I can chew my supper, but Jan said it right. And I'm just not good at muting and unmuting.
All right, so folks, just a quick, I had another meeting with Gail Weiss,
Uh-huh.
and indeed she confirmed that, at the moment we still have $17,889. You see it in yellow.
Uh-huh,
However,
yeah,
the money that so far has been spent on 50%, the initial installment on the restoration
yeah.
came out of our budget, historical commission budget. Do you see at the bottom of the page here?
Ah,
See that? 8,656 came out of our, well, actually, we were up to 19,000. And so I asked her about this and well, didn't really get an explanation, but she said this, which is of concern. She won't be able to remedy this discrepancy until July.
wow.
In other words, implying that in the next fiscal year. Now, what that means is that we'll have, well, just a little over the second installment. It probably won't make a big difference since we've already spent, again here, $1,214 of that 10,000. So the second installment will then come out of here, assuming that that's more or less what it's going to be. Did everybody follow that?
So you're
So,
saying that the funding for the guide board project so far did not come out of the CPA grant?
No, it came out of our budget down here.
fully.
You see,
So where did the money from the CPA grant go? Because town meeting,
well, we still have that. You see up here, 8,765, not 12. That's what's left after this expense, which is the amount paid for transporting the guide board, supplies, etc. So that's where this is the balance of our CPA monies here. Assuming we're going to spend another 8,000, more or less in the money here.
I'm not understanding because you're saying that it came out of our budget, but then here it says that CPA money is already half spent also?
No, not at all. This is the balance here for the CPA money, 8,785.12.
Right, but where is the other 8,765.12? Because we just
8,656. Yeah, that came out of our regular funds rather than out
Yeah,
of
well,
the
no,
set aside.
as far as
right?
I know, we only have 10,000 from the CPA.
Right.
Oh, that's
So-
right. We didn't get the 17 from the CPA.
No,
Okay.
isn't that correct, Mateo?
that grant was 10,000.
Yeah. But see, it was just a clerical snafu. I mean, she just pulled it out of our budget. So right now, technically, we're down to 10,916.
She should have known better,
Yeah, well,
for crying out loud.
yeah, really. The only problem will be if there's money left over from the CPA grant, then we won't be able to spend it on anything but the guide board.
Mhm.
So we need to be careful. I assume that she'll be able to change these numbers. I don't know why she can't do it in the meantime, but I don't know. I don't know if any of you.
I don't see how there would be money left over though, because phase one or the phase that we had adopted from Williamstown. Wait a second, where'd it go? I chatted open. That was 17,312. The CPA funds are 10,000 plus a 5,000 matching dollars because the project cost was reported to be 15.
Yep.
So if we're going to be paying the second half of that cost, almost all that money's going to be gone.
Yeah, almost all of it will be. Anyway, I just thought I'd update you on this. I mean,
So I'm trying to understand, Henry. So the 8656 on the bottom line,
yep,
that was taken from the normal historical commission
right.
reserves.
This is our line. This is
Yeah.
encumbered.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is allocated. And that
Okay.
presumably includes the gifts and various other things.
But if that was already paid out of our regular funds, then what happens with the 8785? Isn't
Well,
that, I mean, those are practically the same numbers. Isn't that the part we would have paid and we've already paid, but from the wrong account and she can't
Yeah.
correct it?
Well, no, we would still have to have paid for the half of this project. This is
Yeah,
my
yeah.
understanding.
That
So,
Right.
means we still have about $1,200 left or something like that from the CPA grant. Because we won't use I mean, if we owe 8,656 to Williamstown, right?
yeah, 50%. Yeah, that would be the next half payment.
So, and we haven't used the 10,000 from the CPA, that means that we're still gonna have what,
No,
13?
no, we have,
15 left?
yeah, no, we have used some of it. You see here, 1,200
Okay. Oh, okay,
minus
I get it
12
now. I get
Yeah.
it now.
minus 1,214.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, this is all this is quite confusing. I believe you. But Gail says that she will itemize anytime we want. But I checked out the numbers; they're fine.
Okay, but I think it would be good to get an itemized list, whatever that is, just because some of this has been a little screwy. There may be other things here that don't really
Mhm.
belong here.
My experience is she's not a citizen. She doesn't go to town meeting, and CPA applications and grants have often been mixed up since way back when I was on the commission. And another question to ask: has anybody? Didn't the Friends of the Historical Commission pledge some money? Has anybody asked the Friends of the Historical Commission to provide that money? That may still be sitting in their bank account, which the town has no access to. Joan used to have to go to the bank and get a check to,
Well, no, this look. I think this is the gift from the. You see this here gift, $1,000. That's how much they pledged.
Okay.
that might be different. It would be worth a call to Joan to make sure, because if it's from June of, I think, 23, that's when the executive board was closing down. And Joan had accounted for, I think those gifts were what was left in the account after. I can even call Joan and ask, but how much did the Friends pledge for the guide board?
I think it was 1,000.
I believe it was 1,000.
Okay, so that's the question for Joan. Does she still have $1,000 in the Friends treasury for the guide board? Because that's
Okay.
been my experience in the past, that Gail would keep spending town funds, not remember, well, Gail never would have known that there was outside money that was supposed to be used. So I don't know who should make that call to Joan, but I don't think it should be me. I'm just telling you that
right.
I've run into this experience before.
Okay.
And what I learned is that when we did go for CPA grants, we had to I almost had to itemize a note to Gail. This is how to pay for it. And whoever put it in the warrant says, take $1,000 from historical commission line, hypothetically, and we
Uh-huh.
would get a check for, from the Friends for 1,000, and some comes out of CPA, and you just have to, because Gail has no way of knowing otherwise, and she just assumes it's all historical commission funds and tries to figure it out the best she can.
Oh. Hmm.
Yeah.
I would have thought that that the town administrator or someone like that would have clarified, it's not just us. There are other
Oh, I know.
combinations of grants that would write something up after a town meeting and give it to Gail so she knew where money was coming from for different projects as voted at town meeting.
Well, you know, it is,
Yeah.
once again, it's a lot of different people doing different things, and
Uh-huh.
if you want to make sure you get your part done,
Yeah.
your committee's part done right, it doesn't hurt to just
Yeah.
communicate with
Okay.
Gail
All right.
directly. But I check with Joan first.
Okay.
I do believe that $1,000 was just additional money that had not been pledged to other projects. If it's from June of 23.
Okay. Well, I'm willing to call her unless someone else wants to, but I'm a
No,
member of the Friends,
it'd
so.
be great if
call.
you could, Joss.
Okay, and I'll get her number later from you, Leslie.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll text it to you after
Okay.
the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I could be wrong, but that's my experience.
It's worth checking. Yep.
Yeah, and just so you know, I did deliver that check from the Quabbin event.
Oh, good.
To the who is it now? The town clerk, maybe, or anyway, the appropriate person, Gail Weiss, actually gave it to this person.
Wait a minute,
Treasurer?
that check from the parade, the
Yes.
Memorial Day parade, that goes in the Historical Commission's supplemental account.
Yeah,
Well, that was I told Gail this was ours, and she told me that it would go to somebody else there in the bureaucracy. Can't remember who.
Oh, Ryan Malo, our treasurer.
The treasurer. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
But as long as it's allocated to
To the Schmidt Trust.
yeah, but that,
Well, she wrote a note on it, Historical Commission.
oh, good.
But,
Yeah.
but does it say Historical Commission Schmidt Trust?
It should.
But Janice, that fund is more than just the Schmidt funds.
Oh, okay, okay,
Well, at this point, that's all that's going in, but
okay.
it had been any excess money that came in from anywhere.
Oh, okay.
And just so you know, see this $360.
Yeah,
That again, this is an allocation from the town every year. If we don't use it, it pretty much does not fold over to the following year.
yeah,
That's correct. So by March or April each year, I would always think, how should we make sure that money gets used?
yeah. I think last year or the year before, Miriam spent it for the supplies for the historical items or something, whether it was more paper or envelopes or I don't know, whatever it was.
Mhm.
There was a little grant that she got
Yeah,
for,
well,
from
that's true.
something else that,
Yeah,
for the records preservation.
yeah,
I don't think we've been spending it, and it just,
No,
March is a busy time and things get away from you, so start
Okay.
thinking right now what the Historical
Okay.
Commission might want
mhm.
to use for their operating budget.
okay.
It's,
Concrete,
All right. All right.
and metal flashing.
Hmm?
Concrete and metal flashing.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
We'll tell the buildings committee, we have this much money and we'll
Yeah,
provide that. You,
We contribute that much.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna write a letter, so I think it's that we're gonna end, unless there's any other business you want to discuss, we can end it for the night.
I'm
Move-
more,
Go ahead.
Should we do another town announce appeal for commission members?
Suppose we could try the, I saw the Conservation Commission just did one.
Yeah, there's been some talking about trying to rally some more Concom member. So just
Yeah.
thinking about.
I think it's a laudable thing to do because there'd be more people working on things, perhaps. But technically, what the law says is that minimum of 3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how many do you,
We have 5, including Karen, right? 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5. Yeah.
and I think the town definition for the commission was 7.
No. Well, I don't know. I don't know about the town's definition. Where would we find that?
And the vote that created it, but
Ah,
I'd have to think about where
I have
that
to
is.
look at that.
But maybe, like you say, if nobody's noticing or caring and you're happy, just it's easier to get a group together, but
Mhm.
Is 7.
it is
It
7.
is 7. Interesting, yeah, because the MGL that defines the historical commission says that a minimum of 3, but I guess each town will have their own say.
Are you finding that right on the list, posted list of appointed officials, Mateo?
Yeah, so that might not be correct actually. Now that
That is correct.
it is.
Yeah.
Where is it, Matteo? Where is that?
I'm looking at it on the website, but I'm trying to find, did you mention a bylaw, Leslie?
Oh, I know that, I wish I had to access town clerk records. I know we had a town meeting vote more than once. But would the, and might be right in that. Bylaws, I'm not
I
not
don't-
sure they cover it. I think it was appointed officials list, which if you're looking at that appointed officials list, I worked on that when I was town clerk and tried to make it clear from town meeting votes. And if it says something like 7 appointed people with rotate, whatever it says there at the top, I'm certain that's taken straight from the vote at some town meeting somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got room to expand.
Yeah, so yeah, it is listed as seven members. We currently have 5, 2 vacancies and 1 associate member.
Who's the associate one again?
You.
Oh,
I was wondering about that too, Leslie. I wasn't sure.
I guess I'm thinking the board.
Something to consider, Leslie, becoming a full member.
No, Leslie's kind of up in the assessor's office.
You'll have voting rights and
Yeah,
the whole
I
thing.
think that's an enviable thing to have. I'm really being the associate member. Thanks, but there's people that are much more energetic and have skills to offer that I don't anymore. I got on, well, I was on for a lot of different times, but town clerk has access to so many historical records as opposed to the stuff we have in the closet.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
That's why I got back on when I started as town clerk.
Uh-huh.
But I was also select board secretary, so I was there 40 hours a week and answering phone calls that Grace wouldn't get. And Grace, statutes have changed. She's got a lot of responsibilities, and I'm not sure that she would be as interested or as it's worth asking, but I don't know that she,
To look it up. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
you have this passion that I do for volunteering 4 hours a day to understand deeds and maps because you just can't pull yourself away from it.
Well, I think we're okay for now in terms of numbers, and we at least could have 5 and maybe up to 7. And if we found someone else who's interested, that would be good.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay, anything else for tonight?
Nope.
So, let's move to adjourn. Do I hear a motion?
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Right. All right, then, we didn't talk about the next meeting time.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
shall we're into December now. Is there a strategic moment there that we should be meeting?
Maybe
regionally, or-
if you're going, if we are going to submit something to CPC, I know maybe we don't need to do the determination, but if we want to confirm that, yes, find out whatever the results of your meeting with the building committee is, that will affect, how we move forwards with the concrete and stuff. So maybe, and you can't really tell us about all that, without a public meeting, in terms of how we're going to handle things, or what do we do next if they say no, what do we do next, that sort of thing. So I don't know if you want to try to do one for early December or not.
Yeah,
But
let's
we
look at
can
the-
we can just
let's
wait
look at
and
the
see,
calendar.
yeah, if something is necessary or not.
December
Well,
10th.
Yeah, we could try for the 10th just in
the
case.
10th looks wide open, but you never know that things
Yeah.
happen. It seems to be a preferred day for select board meetings.
Oh, really?
Well, Tuesdays.
Uh-huh.
So shall we say the 10th then?
That work for you, Bert, too?
Sounds good, yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, let's do that. And then if we really don't need it, okay, but it might be nice just to catch up with the status on the guideboard stuff.
Okay. All right. We have officially adjourned, even though we've
Okay.
done the discussion.
We have to vote
We
on.
didn't vote.
We didn't vote on anything.
It's not
Let's
official
vote.
yet.
Let's vote. Going around. Fernandez.
I,
Geddes. I. Pangalo.
Aye.
Stone.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
It's
you.
a winner. It's a winner.
Yes. All right.
Good-
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Good
Uh,
night.